The interdimensional rift opened above Metropolis at 2:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, reality splitting like torn fabric between the LexCorp Tower and the Daily Planet building. Civilians looked up to see not the familiar red cape they'd come to trust, but something else. Something that wore the costume of a hero but radiated wrongness, the way a corpse radiates decay. The figure descending through crackling dimensional energy wore red, white, and blue. He wore a cape. He had the build of a god. But when Clark Kent looked up from his desk and saw through the walls with X-ray vision, what he witnessed in that being's eyes made his Kryptonian blood run cold. Homelander touched down on the street with enough force to crack concrete, and his first conscious thought in this new reality was a simple one. I'm still a god. And the second thought followed quickly. These people need to worship me. The Man of Steel arrived 17 seconds later, having heard the dimensional breach from 3 states away. Superman landed with practiced gentleness, boots touching pavement without leaving a mark, hands open and non-threatening. Up close, the resemblance was disturbing. Another flying brick in primary colors, another symbol on the chest, another being who could level cities. But Clark could see the differences immediately. The forced smile, the predatory stillness, the way this stranger's eyes tracked every civilian not with concern, but with calculation, measuring their worth as audience rather than lives to protect. I'm Superman, Clark said, voice calm and steady. Welcome to Earth. Are you injured? That dimensional rift looked unstable. Homelander's smile widened, practiced and empty. Superman. He tasted the name, then laughed, a sound devoid of genuine warmth. That's cute. I'm Homelander, and I don't get injured, pal. His enhanced hearing had already catalogued the heartbeats around them, the whispers of recognition for Superman, the confusion about him. His jaw tightened imperceptibly. These your people? Your city? I help protect it, Superman said carefully, noting the possessive phrasing. Along with many other heroes, Earth has quite a few of us. A gentle correction, an implicit message. You're not alone and you're not in charge. The statement hit Homelander like a slap. Other heroes? In his world, he'd been the apex, the ultimate, the living god that Vought marketed, but that he'd actually become. Here, this scout-honest, Kansas farm boy-looking motherfucker was suggesting there were more. He forced his smile to hold. A whole team, huh? That's great, real great. Team player, that's me. Superman's eyes narrowed slightly. Super hearing caught the elevated heart rate, the micro-expressions of barely contained rage beneath the cheerful facade. X-ray vision revealed musculature similar to Kryptonian enhancement, but with subtle wrongness, chemical rather than solar-powered, artificial rather than natural. And beneath the costume, beneath the forced American flag aesthetic, Clark could see the body language of a predator forced to play domesticated. Why don't we head to the Watchtower? Superman suggested, already activating his Justice League communicator. It's our orbital headquarters. You can tell us what happened, so then we can figure out how to help you. Help me? Homelander's eye twitched. I don't need fucking help. But he maintained the smile, the persona, the mask he'd worn for Vought cameras for decades. Sure thing, Superman. Lead the way, buddy. As they lifted into the air, Homelander matching Superman's speed with practiced ease, the false god from another universe catalogued everything. The way people below didn't flinch in terror, but waved. The way Superman flew without showing off, without demanding attention. The ease of genuine heroism rather than performed superiority. It made Homelander's skin crawl. In the Batcave, 300 miles away, Bruce Wayne was already reviewing footage. The dimensional breach had triggered proximity alarms, and his satellite network had captured the arrival. He'd watched the stranger's body language, facial micro-expressions, and threat assessment posture. Batman's cowl obscured his face, but his jaw was tight. "Alfred," he said quietly, "pull everything we can from that rift's dimensional signature. I need to know what universe this one came from." "Quite the look-alike to Master Kent," Alfred observed dryly, appearing with tea, "though the resemblance is rather like comparing a saint to his portrait painted by a sadist." "Exactly." Batman's fingers flew across the keyboard, isolating Homelander's expression in frame-by-frame analysis. "Clark sees power. I see pathology." He enhanced the image, focusing on the eyes. "Everything about this one screams narcissistic personality disorder with psychopathic tendencies. The smile doesn't reach the eyes. The posture demands submission, as in the way he looked at those civilians. Not as people to save," Alfred finished quietly, "as props in his performance." Batman stood, cape falling around him like shadow. "I'm heading to the watchtower. Clark's compassion is his greatest strength, but right now, it might be everyone's greatest danger." On Themyscira, Diana was mid-training session when the communicator chimed. Wonder Woman listened to Superman's brief explanation, her warrior's instinct immediately alert. An interdimensional traveler, Superman-level power, unknown origin and intentions. "I'll be there shortly," she said, already reaching for her lasso. To her Amazon sisters, she added, "A stranger has arrived who wears the costume of a hero but may carry the heart of a conqueror. Superman will show compassion. Batman will show suspicion. And I must determine if this one requires the warrior's response." As three of Earth's greatest heroes converged on the watchtower, Homelander floated through the observation deck with Superman, staring at Earth below and fighting the screaming rage inside his skull. This universe had casual space stations, orbital headquarters. How many other heroes? How much competition for the spotlight? And this Superman, this Boy Scout with his genuine smile and actual morality, was making Homelander's teeth ache with the effort of maintaining his facade. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Superman said, gazing at Earth with obvious love. "Worth protecting." Homelander looked at the planet and saw 7 billion potential worshippers who didn't even know his name yet. "Yeah," he said through his performer's smile. "Sure is." Behind them, the watchtower's doors opened with a pneumatic hiss. Batman stepped through all shadow and assessment. Wonder Woman followed, hand resting casually near her sword. And Homelander, apex predator of his universe, false god who'd never met genuine heroism, felt the first cold touch of something he hadn't experienced in decades. Fear. If you want to see more characters enter different universes, hit that subscribe button and drop the name of a character and the universe you'd want to see them in down in the comments below. Hope shines brightest in the darkest night. The Watchtower's conference room had witnessed countless briefings, alien invasions, temporal paradoxes, reality-threatening crises, but the tension in this particular meeting felt uniquely dangerous. The Trinity sat on one side, Superman with his hands folded, open body language maintaining hope. Batman motionless and analytical, Cowl's white lenses fixed on their guest. Wonder Woman with warrior's stillness, every muscle ready for violence. Across from them, Homelander performed the role of affable hero with the skill of decades of practice. "So you're saying you don't know how you got here?" Batman's voice was gravel, skepticism embedded in every syllable. "One second I'm handling a situation in New York. My New York. Next second, and I'm falling through some kind of rip in space." Homelander spread his hands in a gesture of innocent confusion that he'd perfected in 1,000 Vought PR briefings. "Lucky I ended up somewhere with other heroes, right? Could have been worse." Superman leaned forward slightly. "What kind of situation were you handling?" The question was gentle, but Homelander caught the edge beneath it. This one was probing, testing, terrorist threat, standard stuff. He waved dismissively, not wanting to elaborate on the specifics, how he'd been threatening to laser a protester who'd thrown a cup at him when the rift opened. Point is, I'm here now, and I want to help however I can. That's what heroes do, right? Indeed, Wonder Woman said, her voice carrying the authority of 3,000 years. And heroes serve those who cannot defend themselves. Her dark eyes met his, and Homelander felt like she was seeing straight through his performance to the rot beneath. Tell me, Homelander, in your world, did you serve with other champions? Or did you stand alone? The question was a trap, and Homelander knew it. Had a team, the Seven, top heroes in America. He forced enthusiasm into his voice. We handled everything from bank robberies to alien invasions. Real family atmosphere. Batman's fingers moved across a holographic interface that only he could see, pulling data from the dimensional rift's signature. The multiverse was vast, and tracking parallel Earths was one of his contingencies. The Seven. How many of them could fly? Just me, Homelander said, then caught himself. And translucent could turn invisible, which is sort of like flying, and A-Train was fast. But you were the strongest. Batman's statement hung in the air like an accusation. I mean, yeah, somebody's gotta be. Homelander's smile grew tighter. Is this going somewhere? Because I'm happy to answer questions, but this feels a little like an interrogation. Superman raised a hand gently. Bruce, he just arrived. We're all friends here. To Homelander, his expression softened. I'm sorry. We've dealt with dimensional travelers before, and sometimes they bring complications. Batman's just being cautious. Cautious is keeping weapons locked up, Batman said flatly. Thorough is running background checks. The holographic display expanded, showing dimensional frequency readings. Your universe operates on a different vibrational frequency than ours. Fascinating, and concerning. Concerning how? Wonder Woman's hand hadn't left the vicinity of her lasso. His cellular structure is chemically enhanced, not naturally evolved. Batman's white lenses fixed on Homelander. You weren't born with these abilities. They were given to you, artificially. Homelander's jaw clenched. In his world, the compound feed truth was Vort's most carefully guarded secret. Here, this fucking detective in a bat costume had figured it out in minutes. So what if they were? Powers are powers. I use mine to save people. Do you? Batman's voice carried no inflection, just flat curiosity. The question detonated something in Homelander's carefully maintained control. His eyes flashed, literally, heat vision flickering red before he suppressed it. What the hell is that supposed to mean? Superman stood immediately, positioning himself between Batman and Homelander without appearing threatening. Bruce, that's enough. To Homelander, I'm sorry. Batman has trust issues. It's not personal. Feels pretty fucking personal, Homelander said, then caught himself swearing in front of Superman and forced his smile back. Sorry. Language. Just... It's been a long day, you know? Falling through dimensions, meeting new people, getting interrogated by Gotham's furry detective here. Wonder Woman stood as well, and the movement was predatory grace. Homelander, I've fought alongside Superman for years. I've witnessed his strength, his compassion, and his restraint. She approached slowly, warrior assessing potential opponent. You possess similar power, but power without character is merely capacity for destruction. So the question before us is simple. What manner of warrior are you? Homelander met her gaze and felt something he'd never experienced with any woman. Genuine physical threat. This Amazon could fight. Really fight. Not like Maeve's choreographed movie bullshit, but actual kill you with her bare hands combat. His enhanced hearing caught her heartbeat, steady and controlled, the rhythm of a seasoned warrior rather than someone intimidated by his presence. I'm the kind who saves people, he said, but the statement sounded hollow even to his ears. Then we should see that demonstrated, Diana said, and her tone made it clear this was test, not suggestion. Superman, perhaps Homelander would benefit from accompanying you on patrol. Actions reveal character more clearly than words. Superman's face brightened immediately. That's a great idea. A Homelander. I usually do an evening patrol over Metropolis. Nothing too dramatic, just keeping an eye out, helping where needed. You're welcome to join me. Get a feel for how things work here. The invitation was genuine, warm, everything Homelander had learned to fake but never felt. And the prospect of being Superman's sidekick, of being supervised like some rookie, made him want to laser through everyone in the room. But the alternative was staying here with the Amazon, who looked at him like a threat to eliminate, and the detective who'd already seen through his mask. Sure, Homelander said through his performance smile. Sounds great. Always happy to learn from the best. Batman watched Homelander's micro-expressions. The forced enthusiasm, the rage behind the eyes, found the narcissist's barely contained fury at being positioned as subordinate. Every instinct screamed danger. As Superman and Homelander headed for the Watchtower exit, Batman activated his communicator on a secure channel. Diana, I see it too, Wonder Woman replied, watching the departures. He wears heroism like armor, but underneath is something that should be put down before it hurts someone. Batman's voice carried absolute certainty. I'm running deeper analysis on his universe. Whatever world created him, it wasn't one that values actual heroism. Kal-El will want to give him a chance, Diana said quietly. His hope is infinite. His hope might get people killed. Batman turned back to his console. I'm initiating Protocol Cobalt. If this one proves to be what I think he is, we'll need more than hope. Wonder Woman's hand finally left her sword. And if he proves you wrong? Batman didn't answer. In 30 years of being right about threats, he'd learned to trust his instincts. And every instinct was screaming that Homelander wasn't a hero. He was an extinction event wearing a cape. Metropolis at sunset was beautiful in ways that made Homelander's skin crawl. Superman flew with relaxed confidence, occasionally waving at people below who waved back with genuine affection rather than fear-tinged worship. Children pointed and smiled. Adults called out thanks for yesterday's save or last week's disaster prevention. And through it all, Superman responded with authentic warmth that Homelander couldn't comprehend. This wasn't performance, wasn't marketing, wasn't the transactional relationship between God and supplicant. This was actual heroism. It was disgusting. So you just fly round? Homelander asked, maintaining his interested student facade while his enhanced hearing catalogued thousands of conversations below. Most were about Superman. Very few mentioned the stranger beside him. His jaw tightened imperceptibly. Not just flying, Clark said with that farm boy smile. Listening. My hearing can pick up trouble from miles away. Heartbeats change when people are scared. Building stress patterns when structures are failing. Gunshots, crashes, cries for help. He paused mid-sentence, head tilting slightly. Speaking of which, robbery in progress, 4th and Hamilton. Nothing I can't handle, but want to see how we work. Before Homelander could respond, Superman was gone. Not fast, but with practiced efficiency, covering 6 blocks in seconds and descending toward a jewelry store where armed men were fleeing toward a van. Homelander followed, arriving to find Superman already between the criminals and their escape vehicle, hands raised non-threateningly. Gentlemen, Superman said calmly, it's not too late to put the guns down and rethink this. One of them fired, 3 rounds center mass that sparked off Superman's chest and fell harmlessly to the pavement. Clark didn't even blink, just sighed with what seemed like genuine disappointment. Okay, hard way it is. What followed was a masterclass in restraint that made Homelander's eye twitch. Superman disarmed 4 men in under 3 seconds, using just enough force to incapacitate without injuring. moving with precision that showed complete control over godlike power. No grandstanding, no speeches, no performance, just efficient heroism. The criminals were secured, police were called, and Superman was airborne again within 2 minutes. "See, Metropolis is usually pretty quiet," he said as Homelander rejoined him. "Most criminals know better than to..." A red and yellow streak blurred past them so fast it created a sonic boom. Homelander's enhanced vision barely caught the details. Another hero, this one vibrating at frequencies that should be impossible, leaving lightning in his wake as he vanished toward the Eastern District. "Was that?" Homelander started. "Flash," Superman confirmed with a warm smile. "Barry must have detected something. He's faster than..." Clark paused, tilting his head. "Actually, hold on. Structural failure, downtown construction site. Want to see coordinated rescue?" They descended toward a half-built skyscraper where support beams were shrieking under stress. Superman assessed instantly, heat vision cutting through weakened points with surgical precision while super breath cooled the metal, and his X-ray vision scanning for trapped workers. Homelander tried to help, lasered a support beam to relieve pressure, and immediately realized his mistake when the metal glowed white-hot and nearly collapsed the entire eastern section. "Careful." Superman's hand shot out, catching the buckling beam and holding 3,000 tons of steel steady. Heat vision can overload the structural integrity. You have to pulse it, control the energy output. He demonstrated. Short, precise bursts that cut without compromising. Like this. Being corrected like some fucking intern made Homelander's blood boil. In his world, he was the apex. Here, Superman was casually holding up tons of steel while giving him pointers like a disappointed teacher. His fists clenched, but he maintained the smile. "Right. Got it. Still getting used to the different physics here." "You'll adapt," Superman said encouragingly, and the genuine belief in his voice was somehow worse than condescension. "I remember when I was first learning control, broke a lot of doorknobs." He chuckled, finishing the structural repairs and scanning to ensure everyone was safe. "The power isn't what makes someone a hero. It's the choices." A green light split the sky before Homelander could formulate a response that wouldn't be pure rage. A figure descended in an aura of emerald energy. Green Lantern, his ring construct forming a massive safety net beneath the construction site as additional precaution. "Superman, got your signal. Need backup." "All handled, Hal, but thanks." Superman gestured to Homelander. "This is Homelander, dimensional traveler. Eyes showing him the ropes." Green Lantern's ring glowed brighter, and Homelander felt it. The scan, the analysis, the threat assessment happening in microseconds. Hal Jordan's easy smile didn't quite reach his eyes. "Dimensional traveler, huh? Welcome to the neighborhood. Word of advice, this universe plays by different rules. Power rings, speed force, magic, Kryptonian biology. We've got more ways to level cities than you can count." "That a threat?" Homelander asked, his performed friendliness cracking slightly. "Nah." Hal's construct dissolved as he ascended. "Just facts. Stay cool, don't cause trouble, and you'll be fine." With a burst of green light, he was gone. Superman's communicator chimed. "Superman here." He listened, nodded, then glanced at Homelander. "That was Diana. There's a situation in Washington that needs the Trinity. Nothing too serious, but protocol says we handle government-level threats together. You mind holding down Metropolis for a bit?" "Mind." Homelander's entire body sang with vindication. Finally, a chance to be the hero without this Boy Scout's shadow. "Of course. Happy to help. Metropolis is in good hands." "I know it is," Superman said, and the trust was somehow worse than suspicion. "I'll be back in a couple hours. Remember, pulse the heat vision, control the output, treat people with respect. I got it." Homelander forced his best PR smile. "Go save the world, Superman. I've got this." As soon as Superman vanished toward Washington, Homelander's smile died. He floated higher, surveying Metropolis spread beneath him, and let the rage finally surface. This universe had gods. Real gods. Wonder Woman was a literal Amazon from mythology, and Flash moved faster than Homelander could track. Green Lantern had weapons that could scan him, assess him, threaten him with casual confidence, and Superman, fucking Superman with his genuine heroism and godlike power and perfect control, made Homelander feel like an amateur. In his world, he'd been the ultimate. Here, he was mid-tier at best. His enhanced hearing caught it then, a scream, high-pitched and terrified, from an apartment building 6 blocks east. Homelander descended, heat vision already warming in his eyes, and found a domestic situation. Drunk husband, terrified wife, kid crying in the corner. The kind of scene Homelander would normally ignore as beneath him. But this was his chance, his opportunity to show this universe who he was. "Hey!" His voice thundered through the apartment, making all 3 occupants jump. The husband turned, saw the cape and costume, and his alcohol-soaked brain processed. Hero. "You don't get to hit women, not in my city." "Your city?" The drunk laughed. "This is Superman's." The heat vision was instantaneous. Not pulsed, not controlled, just raw power that burned through the man's shoulder and cauterized the wound before he could scream. He collapsed, smoking, alive but maimed. The wife shrieked. The child wailed. "Next time I don't miss," Homelander said coldly, and flew back through the window into the night. This universe wanted to see what he could do? Fine, he'd show them. But as he floated above Metropolis, enhanced hearing cataloging the sirens converging on that apartment, the frantic 911 calls, the words spreading through police bands about a hero who'd just committed assault, and Homelander felt something unfamiliar and terrible. In his world, Vought controlled the narrative. Here, Superman's symbol meant something. People expected heroism, and he'd just shown them the truth beneath his mask. By the time Superman returned from Washington, Metropolis PD would be looking for answers. Batman would be reviewing footage. Diana would be preparing her sword. And Homelander, apex predator of his universe, false god who'd never met genuine consequence, would learn that in DC actions mattered. His reign as supreme being had lasted exactly 93 minutes. Batman didn't need the police reports to know something had gone wrong. The Watchtower's satellite network had captured thermal signatures from the apartment building, heat vision discharge, excessive force, a wounded civilian. By the time Superman landed back in the conference room with Wonder Woman, Bruce had already compiled a complete incident report, security footage from 3 angles, and medical scans showing the victim's laser-cauterized shoulder wound. "He lasted 90 minutes, Batman said without preamble, projecting the footage holographically. "One domestic disturbance, and he mutilated a civilian." Superman's face went through visible stages of processing, denial, disbelief, then devastating disappointment. "Bruce, maybe there's an explanation." "There is." Batman enhanced the thermal imaging. "He lost control. Or worse." He zoomed in on Homelander's expression just before firing. This was control. Look at his face. That's not heat vision discharge from emotional stress. That's deliberate, calculated punishment. Wonder Woman studied the footage with Warrior's detachment. The wound is precise, non-lethal but permanently damaging. This is dominance display, not heroism gone wrong. She turned to Superman. "Kal-El, you must see what this one is." "I see someone who made a terrible mistake," Clark said quietly, but his voice carried less conviction than before. "Someone who needs guidance, not execution." "He needs a cell," Batman countered flatly. "In the Phantom Zone, if we're being merciful. Otherwise, I'm recommending immediate containment and..." A boom echoed through the watchtower. Not explosion, arrival. Homelander had followed them, my enhanced hearing tracking their conversation, and now he floated outside the conference room window with that PR-perfect smile plastered across his face. Superman opened the external door, and Homelander drifted in, all casual confidence. "Hey, how'd Washington go?" His performance was back, full force. Metropolis was quiet, handled one domestic situation. Guy was drunk, got aggressive, I shut it down. No casualties. "You burned through his shoulder," Batman said, voice like judgment itself. Homelander's smile flickered. He was armed, dangerous. I used appropriate force to neutralize the threat. He was holding a beer bottle. Wonder Woman's hand moved toward her lasso. "You mutilated an unarmed drunk in front of his family. That is not justice. That is cruelty." "I saved that woman." Homelander's voice rose, the edges of rage bleeding through. "That asshole was beating her. I stopped him. Isn't that what heroes do?" "Heroes don't maim people for the crime of being drunk and stupid," Superman said, and his voice carried a weight that made even Homelander pause. "We stop threats. We protect people. We don't become executioners or torturers." "I didn't kill him." Homelander's hands spread in exasperation. "He's alive. He'll live. What more do you want?" "Restraint," Diana said coldly. "Control, mercy, the qualities that separate warriors from butchers." She stepped forward, warrior princess to false god. "In my 3,000 years, I have killed when necessary, but only when necessary, and never in rage, never in dominance display, never to prove my power to those weaker than myself." Homelander's eye twitched. 3,000 years. This woman was ancient, and she was judging him, and suddenly the room felt very small. "You know what? Fuck this. I come here, I help out, I stop a domestic abuser, and you're treating me like I'm the criminal." His heat vision flickered red. "Maybe I should have let that asshole keep beating his wife. Would that have been heroic enough for you?" Batman's hand moved to his belt, a motion so subtle most wouldn't notice, but Homelander's enhanced vision caught it. Weapons. Contingencies. This human detective was preparing to fight him. "Stand down," Superman said, stepping between them. "Everyone, now." To Homelander. "You're angry. I understand. But Diana's right. What you did wasn't heroism, it was excessive force. If you want to operate on this earth, you need to understand that power without control is just violence." The words detonated something fundamental in Homelander's psyche. If you want to operate on this earth, like he needed permission, like he wasn't a god, like these self-righteous pricks with their moral codes and perfect control had authority over him. "I don't need your permission," Homelander said quietly, dangerously. "I'm Homelander. I save who I want, how I want. You don't like my methods? Fine, stay out of my way." He turned to leave, and Batman's voice stopped him cold. "You won't find worship here." Homelander froze, spine rigid. Batman continued, voice analytical and merciless. "That's what you want, isn't it? Not to help people, to be adored, to be feared, to be supreme." He pulled up holographic data, dimensional frequency analysis, parallel universe mapping. "That I've been digging into your universe, found some leaked information, corporate-sponsored heroes, public relations campaigns. The 7 as product placement. You're not a hero, you're a brand." "Bruce, that's enough," Superman warned. "No, it isn't." Batman pulled up more data, grainy footage from Homelander's universe, leaked recordings, testimony from refugees who'd escaped through dimensional rifts before. "There are rumors about you, Homelander. Vought Corporation covered them up, but I found them. Civilian casualties, coerced silence, things you did when the cameras weren't rolling." Homelander's fists clenched, heat vision building behind his eyes. "You don't know anything about me." "I know narcissistic pathology when I see it." Batman stood, cape spreading like Judgment's wings. I know that you need constant validation, that you can't handle being second best, that you've never faced genuine consequence for your actions because corporate lawyers and PR teams cleaned up your messes. He stepped forward, human-facing God without flinching. But you're not in your universe anymore. Here, power doesn't grant immunity. Here, we hold each other accountable. You want to hold me accountable? Homelander's voice dropped to whisper, heat vision glowing crimson. You, a human in a Halloween costume. Wonder Woman's sword cleared its sheath with a ring of divine metal. Superman's hands became fists, the faint glow of heat vision warming behind his eyes in response to threat. And Batman just stood there, utterly unafraid, because he'd already calculated 17 ways to neutralize Homelander if this went lethal. The moment balanced on a knife's edge. And then Homelander laughed, brittle, performative, the sound of fracturing ego, and his heat vision dimmed. You know what? You're right. I'm not a hero. I'm better than that. I'm a god. He looked at each of them in turn. You want me gone? Fine. I'll leave your precious Earth. There are other universes, other worlds that'll appreciate what I am. He turned toward the exit, then paused. But when something comes along that you can't handle, when your precious moral codes and restraint get people killed, don't come crying to me. As Homelander stormed toward the airlock, Superman moved to follow, but Diana's hand on his shoulder stopped him. Let him go, Kal-El. Some lessons must be learned in solitude. He's dangerous, Superman said quietly. He's broken, Diana corrected, and broken things either heal or shatter further. We will watch, us, and we will be ready. Batman was already back at his console, tracking Homelander's trajectory. The false god was descending toward Earth, toward the nighttime skyline of a city that Batman knew intimately. He's heading to Gotham, Bruce said flatly. Of course he is. Why Gotham? Superman asked. Batman's expression behind the cowl was grim. Because it's dark. Because Superman's light doesn't shine there. Because a narcissist in crisis seeks places that match his psychology. He activated his communicator. Nightwing, Red Hood, Oracle. Be advised. We have an enhanced hostile inbound. Superman-class power. Compromised morality. Narcissistic break in progress. Do we engage? Nightwing's voice came through. Observe only, Batman ordered. I'm en route. As the Dark Knight headed for the Bat plane, Alfred's voice crackled through the comm. Master Bruce, perhaps this once you might wait for backup. No time. Batman's jaw set behind the cowl. If Homelander does in Gotham what he did in Metropolis, people die. Lots of them. Then at least take the kryptonite, Alfred said quietly. Just in case. Batman's hand moved to his belt, to the lead-lined pouch that held green crystal death, the ultimate contingency against Superman-class threats. Already done. In Gotham, shadows spread across Crime Alley like judgment, and into those shadows descended a false god looking for somewhere to belong. Homelander touched down on a rooftop, rage and confusion warring in his chest, and for the first time in his chemically enhanced life, he felt genuinely lost. Then his enhanced hearing caught it. Screams, 3 blocks east, multiple assailants, a violent mugging in progress. The kind of crime that happened every night in this cesspool city. And Homelander smiled. If Superman's shining city didn't want him, maybe Gotham's darkness would. The Watchtower conference room had never felt more like a courtroom. Batman stood at the head of the table, holographic displays floating in 3-dimensional space around him, each one showing evidence compiled from 72 hours of relentless investigation. Superman sat with arms crossed, jaw tight. Wonder Woman stood with warrior's readiness. The extended Justice League had been summoned, Flash vibrating with nervous energy, Green Lantern's ring glowing faintly, Cyborg's systems processing the data streams, Aquaman present via hologram from Atlantis. Martian manhunter's red eyes reflecting the disturbing images. Flight 37, Batman said, and the holographic display shifted to show a commercial airliner torn apart at 30,000 feet. Homelander's universe, 8 months ago. Mayor's jet threatened by terrorists. The Homelander attempted rescue. His heat vision destroyed the control systems, dooming everyone aboard. Rather than save passengers, he fled to protect his reputation. 312 casualties. Superman's fists clenched on the table. That can't be. There's more. Batman's voice carried no satisfaction, just relentless prosecution. Cross-referencing dimensional frequency data with leaked Vought Corporation files, refugee testimony, and digital forensics recovered from the Rift's temporal echo. The images shifted. Security footage, coroner's reports, sealed documents. Alexandra Bourke, junior marketing executive at Vought, filed HR complaint about sexual harassment. Body found in apparent suicide 3 weeks later. The coroner noted laser burns consistent with extreme heat, but was overruled by Vought-employed physician. Circumstantial, Hal Jordan said, but his voice lacked conviction. Then let's discuss the confirmed incidents. Batman pulled up more files. Surveillance from Homelander's universe showing civilians vaporized, buildings destroyed, a pattern of violence covered up by corporate money and media control. 17 documented cases of excessive force resulting in civilian death. 43 allegations of sexual misconduct, all settled out of court with NDAs. Multiple accounts of violent retaliation against critics and protesters. This is character assassination, Flash said uncertainly. We're judging him based on another universe's claims. We're judging him based on evidence, Batman corrected. Evidence that suggests Homelander isn't a hero who made mistakes. He's a psychopath who was never held accountable. Wonder Woman studied the footage with Warrior's assessment. In my 3 millennia, I have witnessed many warriors who wielded power without honor. This one, she paused, choosing words carefully. This one is not merely violent. He's broken fundamentally. The pattern shows narcissistic rage, inability to accept criticism, need for dominance over those weaker. These are not traits that heal with compassion. So what are you suggesting? Superman stood, voice rising. That we execute him based on crimes he committed in another universe, crimes he hasn't committed here. Yet, Batman added coldly. He hasn't committed them yet. You can't know that. Clark's hand slammed on the table, from the impact leaving cracks in the reinforced metal. That's pre-crime, Bruce. That's Minority Report. We don't punish people for what they might do. We stop threats before they metastasize. Batman pulled up the footage from yesterday. Homelander lasering the domestic abuser, the calculated cruelty. You saw what he did after 90 minutes unsupervised, maimed a civilian for the crime of being drunk. That's not adaptation stress, that's who he is. Cyborg's mechanical eye glowed as he processed terabytes of data. I've analyzed his psychological profile based on behavioral patterns. Batman's right, classic narcissistic personality disorder with antisocial features. The man doesn't have empathy, he has performance. John, Superman turned to the Martian. You're telepathic. You could read his mind and see his true intentions. Martian Manhunter's expression was pained. I scanned him briefly when he arrived. Kal-El, his mind is... He paused, searching for words. Imagine a child, given godlike power and raised to view other beings as props in his performance. There is no moral foundation, no genuine compassion, only need for worship, for dominance, for validation. I withdrew before he detected my presence. But what I sensed... John's voice dropped. He is dangerous beyond measure. Then we help him, Superman insisted, but his voice carried less certainty than before. We show him what real heroism looks like. We give him a chance to be better. Like Injustice, Superman? Batman's question hit like a gut punch. The room went silent. That timeline, the parallel Earth where Joker's trick turned Superman into dictator, is where absolute power corrupted absolutely, haunted every member of the League. They'd seen what happened when Superman-level power existed without Superman-level morality. That was different, Clark said quietly. That was grief, manipulation, Lois's death. That was what happens when power meets corruption, Batman countered. Homelander doesn't need tragedy to push him over the edge. He's already there. The only difference between him and Injustice Superman is that he was never good to begin with. Wonder Woman's hand rested on Superman's shoulder. Kal-El, I know your heart rebels against preemptive action, but as warrior, I must counsel. Sometimes threat must be ended before innocents die. Not murdered, but contained. The Phantom Zone, perhaps. Not until we find a way to return him to his universe. The Phantom Zone is for Kryptonian criminals, Superman said, pulling away. We can't just imprison him without trial, without him committing crimes in our jurisdiction. Oracle's voice crackled through the speakers, urgent and afraid. Batman, we have situation in Gotham, multiple casualties, crime alley, Homelander. The holographic display shifted to show Gotham's surveillance network. What they saw made even Batman's jaw tighten. Crime alley was burning. Homelander floated above the carnage, heat vision having carved through brick and flesh alike. The mugging he'd intervened in had gone wrong, or maybe it had gone exactly as he'd intended. 6 bodies on the ground, 3 burning. 2 were the muggers. 4 were bystanders who'd run at the wrong moment or stayed frozen when they should have fled. He's been in Gotham for 40 minutes, Oracle reported, voice shaking. This is the 3rd incident. Body count at 11 and rising. Superman's face went white. 11? He's not stopping them anymore. Nightwing's voice came through, breathless from running. He's executing them, muggers, drug dealers, petty thieves, anyone committing crimes. And he's not checking backgrounds or circumstances, just lasering anyone he deems bad. Flash was already vibrating toward the door. We need to move. Now. Wait. Batman's voice stopped them. We need plan. He's Superman-class power with 0 restraint. If we engage wrong, he could level city blocks. Then what do you suggest? Aquaman's hologram leaned forward. Now, let him continue slaughter? No. Batman pulled up tactical displays showing Gotham's layout, Homelander's current position, evacuation routes. We coordinate. Flash, you evacuate civilians. You're fastest. Hal, containment barriers, keep destruction localized. Diana, John, aerial engagement to draw him away from populated areas. Cyborg, hack any technology he might use. Arthur, stay ready in case this goes waterside. And me? Superman's voice was hollow. Batman met his gaze. You do what you've always done. You try to save everyone, including him. He pulled a small lead-lined case from his belt. But if that fails, I do what I've always done. I end the threat. The kryptonite glowed faintly through the container's seams. Bruce, no. Superman stepped forward. We're not killing him. We're not letting him kill more innocents either. Batman pocketed the container. Superman, I respect your moral code. I depend on it. But I'm Batman because someone has to make the hard choices. He headed for the exit. If he can be saved, you'll save him. But if he can't, I'll do what's necessary. As the Justice League mobilized, Flash already gone in burst of lightning, Green Lantern's ring blazing as he shot toward Gotham, Wonder Woman and Martian Manhunter lifting off in formation. Superman stood alone in the conference room, staring at the surveillance footage of crime alleys burning dead. Homelander floated above the carnage, smiling his PR smile at security cameras, waving like he'd just saved the day. And Superman, who'd spent his entire life believing anyone could be redeemed, had felt something crack in his infinite optimism. Because Batman was right. This wasn't hero gone wrong. This was monster finally showing its true face. And maybe mercy wasn't always the answer. In Crime Alley, Homelander heard the sonic booms of incoming heroes and smiled wider. Let them come. Let Superman and his self-righteous friends see what real justice looked like. Let them try to stop him. He was done performing, done pretending, done being anything less than what he truly was. A god, unchained. Gotham would learn to worship or burn. And then the rest of this universe would follow. The Flash arrived first, reality bending around him as he phased through Crime Alley at speeds that made sound itself lag behind. Barry Allen had seen atrocities before. Reverse Flash's murders, Gorilla Grodd's rampages, the horrors of war across timelines. But what stopped him in a crackling nimbus of Speed Force lightning was the deliberateness of it. This wasn't collateral damage. This wasn't heroism gone wrong. This was execution. Homelander stood in the center of the carnage, cape barely moving in the smoke-filled air, surveying his work with the satisfaction of an artist appraising a completed canvas. 11 bodies. No, 12 now. A drug dealer who'd tried to run had been caught mid-stride, heat vision burning through his spine with surgical precision. The smell of charred flesh mixed with Gotham's perpetual rot. Homelander! Flash's voice cracked across the alley. Step away from the civilians. The false god turned slowly, smile widening. Flash, right? The fast one. He gestured casually at the bodies. Relax, Scarlet. These aren't civilians. They're criminals. Drug dealers, muggers, rapists. Gotham's finest. I'm cleaning house. You're executing people without trial. Barry's hands crackled with Speed Force energy. That's not justice. That's murder. Murder? Homelander laughed, genuine amusement breaking through his performance mask. Murder is what these fucks do every night in this shithole city. I'm pest control. His heat vision flickered red as he focused on a terrified woman pressed against the alley wall, a prostitute who'd witnessed everything. What about her? She probably spreads diseases, corrupts the youth. Should I save her or save society from her? Flash moved before Homelander finished speaking, vibrating through space-time to position himself between the woman and the threat. You're not touching her. Or what? Homelander's eyes glowed crimson. You'll run away really fast? The heat vision discharged. Twin beams of concentrated death, and Flash phased, letting the energy pass through his vibrating molecules harmlessly. Bad move, Barry said, and his fist connected with Homelander's jaw at relativistic speeds. The impact sent Homelander through 3 brick walls and into an abandoned warehouse. He emerged seconds later, nose bleeding, rage replacing amusement. You actually hit me. You fucking insect, actually. Green Lantern descended like emerald judgment, hard light constructs forming massive restraints around Homelander's limbs. And Homelander, by the authority of the Green Lantern Corps and the Justice League, you're under arrest for multiple counts of murder, excessive force, and crimes against... Homelander's heat vision cut through the constructs like they were tissue paper. Hal Jordan barely managed to raise a shield before the beams would have carved through his skull. Your ring doesn't scare me, Space Cop. Nothing in this universe scares me. Wonder Woman landed with the force of Olympian thunder, sword drawn, lasso coiled and ready. Behind her, Martian Manhunter phased into solidity, his alien features set in grim determination. Diana's voice carried 3,000 years of warrior authority. Then you are fool as well as monster. Fear is wisdom's beginning. The Amazon Princess. Homelander's smile returned, but it was fractured now, edges of madness showing through. Let me guess, you're gonna lecture me about honor, warrior's code, how great heroes don't kill. He gestured at the bodies. These people were garbage. I took out the trash. In my world, that makes me a hero. Here, it makes you murderer. Diana raised her sword, and murderers face justice. The explosion of violence was instantaneous. Homelander lunged with speed born of chemical enhancement and rage, heat vision blazing. Wonder Woman's bracelets caught the beams, deflecting them into the sky as she closed distance. Her sword sang through the air, God-forged metal meeting invulnerable flesh with a screech of cosmic friction. The blade didn't penetrate, but the force of Diana's strike sent Homelander careening backward. Martian Manhunter struck from behind, an alien strength and density shifting, allowing him to become momentarily tangible at molecular level. His punch carried Martian combat mastery and telepathic assault simultaneously, physical and psychic warfare combined. Homelander screamed, clutching his head as John's telepathy tore through his mental defenses. "I see your mind," John said, voice carrying sorrow and disgust. "Every victim, every assault, every moment of cruelty justified by narcissism. You're not hero, you're not even human. You are hollow thing wearing humanity's skin." "Get out of my head!" Homelander's heat vision went wild, sweeping the alley in uncontrolled arcs. Flash evacuated civilians at super speed while Green Lantern's barriers absorbed the energy. Buildings burned. Gotham's ancient brick and mortar crumbled under the assault of godlike power, unleashed without restraint. Then Superman arrived. The Man of Steel descended like judgment itself, landing between Homelander and the Justice League with hands raised. "Homelander, stop, before this gets worse." "Worse?" Homelander's laugh was broken glass. "This is what you wanted, right, Superman? For me to show my true colors? Well, congratulations." He spread his arms, cape billowing in the smoke. "This is who I am. I'm not some farm boy who pretends to be humble. I'm a god. I don't save people. I let them worship me for not killing them." "Then you're not a god," Superman said quietly. "You're just another bully with powers." The words detonated something fundamental in Homelander's fractured psyche. His heat vision intensified, targeting not Superman but the surrounding buildings, dozens of apartments, hundreds of sleeping residents. "You want to see what a god does when someone challenges him?" Wonder Woman moved faster than thought, lasso already flying. The golden cord, forged by Hephaestus, empowered by Hestia's truth, wrapped around Homelander's neck and pulled tight. The effect was immediate and devastating. The lasso of truth compelled absolute honesty, stripping away performance and ego and leaving only raw psychological core. "Speak truth," Diana commanded. "What do you feel for these people?" Homelander struggled against the lasso, heat vision flickering as the divine magic worked its way through his chemistry. His mouth opened, and the words came unbidden. "Nothing. They're props. Audience. Things that exist to make me feel superior." His face contorted with rage and humiliation. "I don't love them. I don't even like them. I need them to worship me because without worship, I'm just empty," John finished telepathically, still linked to Homelander's mind. "You are void given form, power without purpose, strength without meaning." "No." Homelander's entire body glowed with heat as he fought the lasso's compulsion. "I'm Homelander. I'm the greatest hero who ever—" "You are monster," Diana said, and pulled the lasso tighter. "And monsters must be stopped." Batman's voice crackled through the League's communicators. "Clear the area, all of you, now." Superman's head snapped up. "Bruce, what are you—" "Clear the area." Batman's voice carried absolute authority. "I'm initiating Protocol Cobalt. You have 30 seconds. Wonder Woman understood immediately. She released the lasso and grabbed Superman, launching skyward with Martian Manhunter. Flash evacuated at light speed. Green Lantern created shields and ascended. Within seconds, Crime Alley was empty except for Homelander, still glowing with rage, and the Dark Knight emerging from shadows with a small device in his hand. "You," Homelander spat, focusing on the human who'd called him out, who'd seen through his mask, who'd dared judge him. "You're just a man, no powers, no abilities. just gadgets and trauma." "True," Batman said calmly, approaching without fear. "But I have something you don't." "What's that?" Homelander's heat vision warmed. "Insanity, a death wish." Batman stopped 10 feet away, utility belt glowing faintly green. "Preparation." He pressed the device. So the effect was immediate and catastrophic for Homelander. Every storm drain, every ventilation shaft, every hidden reservoir in Crime Alley erupted with kryptonite-infused mist, synthesized specifically for this contingency, aerosolized to maximum effectiveness, dispersed through systems Batman had installed throughout Gotham over decades of paranoid preparation. The green mist enveloped Homelander like toxic fog, and he felt his strength die. Compound V had made him powerful, but it hadn't made him Kryptonian. The radiation that would weaken Superman didn't affect him, but Batman had mixed something else into the compound. Something specifically tailored to Compound V's chemical signature, synthesized from the Dimensional Rift's analysis, designed to disrupt artificial enhancement at molecular level. Homelander fell to his knees, gasping. What did you—" "I read your cellular structure," Batman said, approaching slowly. "Your powers come from chemical enhancement, not natural evolution. That makes them vulnerable to chemical disruption." He pulled a syringe from his belt, glowing with the same green-tinged compound. "This is inhibitor specifically designed for Compound V. It won't kill you, but it will make you human." Homelander looked up, and for the first time in his existence, genuine terror showed in his eyes. No, you can't. Without my powers, I'm nothing. I'm accountable," Batman finished. The inhibitor injection took 3 seconds. Homelander felt it spreading through his veins like ice water, felt his enhanced musculature weakening, felt his heat vision dimming to nothing, felt flight capability dying like a severed nerve. He collapsed fully onto the pavement, hands scraping against blood-stained concrete, and for the first time since Compound 5 entered his infant body, he was merely human, merely mortal. Batman stood over him, syringe empty, expression unreadable behind the cowl. "The inhibitor is temporary, 12 hours, maybe less depending on your metabolism, but it's enough time to secure you, transport you to holding, and decide what happens next." Homelander tried to rise and couldn't. His body, the body that had shrugged off bullets and bombs, now struggled under its own weight. "You fucking coward, is drugging me, fighting me when I can't fight back." "I'm not fighting you," Batman corrected. "I'm arresting you. There's a difference." He activated his communicator. "Target neutralized. Bring in containment." But Homelander's enhanced hearing, one of the few senses not fully inhibited yet, caught something Batman didn't. A heartbeat accelerating. Breathing pattern of someone making a desperate choice. Footsteps approaching from the alley's shadows. The shot rang out before anyone could react. Red Hood emerged from the darkness, smoking pistol aimed at Homelander's head, expression invisible behind his helmet, but body language screaming rage. Jason Todd, second Robin, murdered by Joker, resurrected by Lazarus Pit, forever changed, had watched the massacre from rooftops and made his own judgment. "This is how we should have handled Joker," Jason said coldly, finger tightening on the trigger. "No rehabilitation, no second chances, just permanent solution." "Hood, stand down." Batman's voice carried command and warning. "That's an order." "Your orders got me killed," Jason said flatly. "Your mercy lets monsters keep killing. This one's murdered what, 15 people tonight? How many more before you admit mercy isn't always right?" The bullet had grazed Homelander's temple. Warning shot or genuine attempt interrupted by Batman's intervention. Impossible to tell. Blood trickled down the false god's face, and the mortality of it, the simple human vulnerability, made him whimper. Superman landed between them, moving faster than even Batman could intercept. "Jason, no, we don't execute prisoners." "Why not?" Red Hood's aim didn't waver. But he's not from our universe. No jurisdiction, no legal protections. He's enemy combatant who massacred civilians. Military rules apply. Summary execution for war crimes. This isn't war, Diana said, descending with sword still drawn but pointed away. Though if it were, as warrior I might agree. This one cannot be redeemed, cannot be rehabilitated. He is fundamentally broken. She looked at Superman. But Kal-El is right. We do not execute defenseless prisoners, even monsters. That is line we do not cross. That's the line that lets Joker keep killing, Jason said, voice raw with old pain. That's the line that got me killed. That's the line that'll get more people killed when this psycho gets free and does it again. Homelander looked up at the assembled heroes. Batman with his inhibitor, Jason with his gun, Superman with his infinite mercy, Diana with her warrior's pragmatism, and laughed. Broken, bitter laughter that echoed off crime alley's blood-stained walls. "You're all fucking insane," he gasped between laughs. "You could end this. One bullet, one sword thrust, problem solved. But you won't, because you're so goddamn noble." He looked at Jason. "Shoot me, kid. Do it. At least you're honest about what it takes to stop monsters." "Don't," Superman said, hand reaching toward Jason. "Don't give him what he wants. He wants to die a martyr, to prove we're no better than him." "I want to stop hurting," Homelander screamed, and for one moment the mask shattered completely. Not performance, not manipulation, genuine anguish from a being who'd never developed emotional regulation, never learned empathy, and never been taught anything except that he was supreme. "I'm broken. I've always been broken. Vought made me in a lab and raised me in a cell and told me I was a god. But I'm just human," John said, materializing beside them, his telepathy still touching Homelander's fracturing mind. "Under the power, under the narcissism, under the cruelty, you are simply damaged child given godlike abilities. It does not excuse your actions, but it explains them." "Can he be fixed?" Superman asked, hope flickering in his voice. John's expression was sorrowful. "I've touched the minds of many beings across galaxies. I've seen madness, corruption, evil in countless forms. This one..." He paused, searching for words. His psyche formed around absence of genuine human connection. He has no template for empathy, and no foundation for moral development. Could he theoretically be rehabilitated? Perhaps, with decades of intensive psychic therapy, artificial empathy implantation, personality reconstruction at fundamental level. The Martian's voice hardened. But during that time, how many would he kill? How much damage would he cause? And would the being that emerged even be the same person? "Ship of Theseus," Batman said quietly. "Replace enough pieces, and is it still the same ship?" "Exactly." John looked at Homelander with something like pity. "You are tragedy, but tragedy does not absolve responsibility." Nightwing dropped from a fire escape, landing beside Red Hood. Dick Grayson, first Robin, natural leader, hope to Batman's darkness, put a hand on Jason's shoulder. "Lower the gun, Little Wing. This isn't the answer." "Then what is?" Jason's voice cracked. "What's the answer, Dick? We contain him for life. Hope the inhibitor keeps working? Wait for him to escape and do this again?" "We do what we've always done," Nightwing said quietly. "We find the hard solution, the one that doesn't require us to become executioners." "The Phantom Zone," Superman said suddenly. "It's a Kryptonian prison dimension. Time doesn't pass normally. He could be contained there indefinitely, isolated from innocence, unable to cause harm." "That's still life imprisonment without trial," Flash said, arriving in a burst of Speed Force lightning. "Barry Allen, the forensic scientist, has problems with that from legal standpoint, even if Barry Allen, the hero, sees the necessity." "Then we give him a trial," Batman said. "Under what jurisdiction, I'm not sure. But we document his crimes, present evidence, allow defense. We prove we're better than him by following our own laws. And when he escapes during trial, Red Hood demanded. When he kills the judge, the jury, the civilians in the courtroom? We'll be ready, Wonder Woman said. I will stand guardian. If he threatens innocent life, I will end him. This I swear on Hera's name. Homelander listened to them debate his fate. Heroes arguing about mercy versus justice, law versus pragmatism, and felt something unprecedented. Not remorse, exactly. Not guilt. But a kind of exhausted recognition that in this universe, he was outmatched. Not just in power. Superman could crush him, Wonder Woman could kill him, Flash could phase through him, but in something deeper. They had meaning, purpose beyond self. A genuine desire to protect rather than be worshipped. He'd never had that. Vought had taken it from him before it could form. I'll confess, he said quietly, and every hero turned to stare. To everything. Flight 37, the sexual assaults, the murders, the cover-ups, all of it. His voice was hollow. But on one condition. You're not in position to negotiate, Batman said flatly. I know. Homelander looked up at Superman, at the genuine hero he could never be. The condition isn't for me, it's for you. He gestured weakly at the bodies in Crime Alley. Use me as example. Show your world what happens when power exists without humanity. When someone gets Superman's abilities but none of Superman's heart. Clark's expression softened slightly. Why? Because I'm not redeemable, Homelander said with terrible clarity. I know what I am. I've always known. And maybe if you show people what I am, what I could have been if Vought hadn't broken me. He laughed bitterly. Maybe some other kid born with powers won't end up like me. The silence stretched for long moments. Finally, Batman nodded. Acceptable. Your testimony in exchange for full documentation of how corporate exploitation and absent morality creates monsters. He looked at Superman. Are you willing to accept this? Superman studied Homelander for a long moment. Seeing the monster, yes, but also seeing the damaged child beneath. The tragedy of potential corrupted. Yes, he said quietly. But Phantom Zone containment stands. You'll be isolated, imprisoned, cut off from anyone you could hurt. Fine. Homelander closed his eyes. Oh, I'm better than what I deserve. As Batman called in containment and the Justice League began processing the scene, Gotham's shadows seemed to breathe with relief. The threat was contained, the monster caged. Justice, flawed and complicated, had prevailed. But in those shadows, watching from a rooftop 3 blocks away, another presence observed the proceedings with interest. A figure in purple and green, grin splitting his pale face, already calculating how this new development might be used for maximum chaos. The Joker had found a new toy to play with. And Gotham's nightmare was far from over. The Watchtower's maximum security holding cell had been designed for Superman-class threats, reinforced with nth metal walls, red sun radiation emitters, and enough magical wards to contain a minor demon. Homelander sat in the center of it, still human-weak from the inhibitor, wrists bound with enchanted restraints that Wonder Woman had brought from Themyscira. Through the transparent aluminum barrier, he could see Batman working at a console, documenting everything with methodical precision. You know I'll escape eventually, Homelander said, voice lacking its usual bravado. The inhibitor will wear off. I'll get my powers back. I know, Batman replied without looking up. That's why you're being transferred to the Phantom Zone in 6 hours. Once you're there, time becomes irrelevant. You could spend 1,000 years in isolation. 10 seconds would pass here. Sounds like hell. It's prison. Batman finally looked up, white lenses fixing on Homelander. You murdered 15 people tonight. 23 in your own universe that we can confirm. That's not including the sexual assaults, the corporate corruption, the abuse of power. Hell would be merciful compared to what you deserve. Then why not just kill me? Homelander leaned forward. Your partner, Red Hood, wanted to. The Amazon could do it easily. Even Superman probably thought about it. Why show mercy to someone who doesn't deserve it? Batman stood, approaching the cell barrier. Because the moment we start executing prisoners is the moment we become what we fight against. Justice isn't about revenge, and it's about preventing future harm while maintaining our humanity. He pulled up holographic files, dimensional analysis, compound V research, psychological profiles. You're right that you'll eventually regain your powers. The inhibitor is temporary, but I'm not just containing you, I'm studying you. Studying me? Homelander's eyes narrowed. What for? Because you won't be the last, Batman said flatly. Your universe has corporate-sponsored heroes, Compound V creating artificial powers, entertainment industry replacing genuine heroism. That model could spread. Other companies in other universes could replicate Vault's methodology. I need to understand how to stop them before more monsters like you are created. The brutal honesty hit Homelander harder than any physical blow. He wasn't even unique. He was just the first example of a systemic problem. The irony, he said, laughing bitterly, is that I always wanted to be special. One of a kind, and you're telling me I'm just a symptom. You're a cautionary tale, Batman corrected. Which is why Superman wants your testimony, why we're documenting everything. Your existence proves that power without proper moral foundation creates tyranny. The cell door hissed open, not the main barrier, but a secondary entrance. Superman entered, carrying a recording device, his expression carefully neutral. Behind him came Wonder Woman, hand near her sword, ready to strike if Homelander made any threatening moves. Ready to give your statement? Clark asked. Homelander looked between them, the hero he could never be and the warrior who'd kill him without hesitation if he stepped out of line. Yeah. Let's get this over with. What followed was 4 hours of confession. Homelander talked, and Superman recorded, and Batman documented. Every murder, every assault, every moment of corruption and abuse and cruelty that Vaught's corporate machine had covered up. He described Flight 37 in detail, how his heat vision had destroyed the control systems, how he'd fled rather than save passengers, because saving them would have required admitting his failure. He detailed the sexual assaults with clinical detachment, explaining how his position of absolute power made consent meaningless. He walked through the murders, some committed in rage, others in calculated demonstration of dominance. Through it all, Superman's expression grew more haunted. This was what he could have become if the Kents hadn't raised him right. And if he'd been treated as product instead of person, if power had come without the moral framework to wield it responsibly. Why are you confessing all this? Diana asked when Homelander paused. You could remain silent. Make us prove each crime. Because Batman's right. Homelander met her warrior's gaze. I'm not special. I'm just what happens when you give a broken person godlike power. And if my confession saves one kid from becoming like me, if it makes one universe think twice about creating artificial heroes, then maybe, he trailed off, maybe I'm not completely worthless. It wasn't redemption. Redemption required genuine change, genuine growth, genuine empathy he'd never developed and never would. But it was something, a tiny fragment of self-awareness, a recognition that his existence had meaning beyond self-worship, and even if that meaning was serving as cautionary tale. The recording ended. Superman deactivated the device, hands shaking slightly. "Thank you," he said quietly. "This will save lives." "Will it?" Homelander's laugh was hollow. Or will people just ignore it like they always do? Vought knew what I was. They knew about the murders, the assaults, everything. They covered it up because I made them money. Your universe any different? Yes, Wonder Woman said with absolute certainty. Here, heroes are not products. Justice League answers to no corporation. We are accountable to people we protect, not shareholders who profit from suffering. Must be nice, Homelander said, and for once, the sarcasm sounded almost wistful. Batman's console chimed. Phantom Zone projector is ready. Doctor. Hamilton confirmed the portal stability. He looked at Superman. Last chance to reconsider. Clark's jaw tightened. Every instinct screamed against it, against imprisoning someone in dimensional prison without traditional trial, without possibility of rehabilitation, without hope of redemption. But he'd seen the bodies in Crime Alley. He'd read the testimony of Homelander's victims. He'd looked into those eyes and seen the absence where empathy should be. The Phantom Zone isn't death, he said finally. If we discover a way to genuinely rehabilitate him, to give him the psychological foundation he never had, we can retrieve him. But until then, innocence come first. Spoken like a true hero, Homelander said, and this time there was no mockery. Just exhausted recognition. You know what the fucked up thing is? And part of me actually respects you people. You've got power, and you use it responsibly. You don't need worship, you just help. I never understood that. Still don't really. But I respect it. Martian Manhunter phased through the wall, his telepathic presence gentle but firm. It is time. The portal must be opened during optimal dimensional alignment. 2 Green Lanterns arrived, Hal Jordan and John Stewart, their rings glowing as they created containment fields around Homelander. The inhibitor was beginning to wear off. Batman's sensors detected microscopic cellular regeneration beginning. They had maybe 30 minutes before Homelander's powers returned. The Phantom Zone projector activated with a sound like reality tearing. A portal opened, swirling darkness that showed glimpses of crystalline structures floating in void, and a prison dimension outside normal space-time. Homelander looked at it and felt his first genuine moment of fear since childhood. How long will I be there? He asked quietly. As long as necessary, Batman said. Could be years, could be centuries. Time doesn't flow the same way. Will I go insane? You're already insane, Diana said, not unkindly. But you will have time to think, to understand what you were, what you could have been. The Phantom Zone provides clarity, if nothing else. Homelander stood as the Green Lanterns guided him toward the portal. The enchanted restraints would hold even as his powers returned, keeping him contained during the transfer. He looked back one final time at the assembled heroes. For what it's worth, he said, I'm sorry. Not for what I did, I still don't feel that. But for what I am, and for being the monster in Superman's cape. We know, Superman said. And that's the tragedy. You're a victim and a victimizer, but being a victim doesn't absolve you. I know. Homelander stepped toward the portal. Hey, Superman. One last question. Yes. If Vought had never found me, if a couple like the Kents had adopted me instead, do you think I could have been like you? The question hung in the air for a long moment. Finally, Clark answered with careful honesty. I don't know, maybe, but that's not the universe you lived in. You became what you were shaped to be. Now you live with consequences. Homelander nodded and stepped through the portal. Reality folded around him, crystalline structures of the Phantom Zone materializing as Earth's universe faded. His last view of the Justice League was Superman's face, sad but resolute, an infinite compassion tempered by necessary judgment. Then the portal closed, and Homelander was alone in eternal prison. The conference room felt emptier after Homelander's banishment. The Justice League sat in heavy silence, processing what they'd just done, imprisoned a being potentially forever, without trial, based on crimes committed across universes. Batman stood at the window overlooking Earth, cowl removed, Bruce Wayne's face showing rare uncertainty. We crossed a line today, he said quietly. Superman looked up, surprised to hear Batman question himself. You think we were wrong? I think we were necessary, Bruce corrected. That's not the same as right. He turned to face the team. We imprisoned someone without due process, without jury, without appeal, without possibility of rehabilitation. We became judge, jury, and in some ways, executioner. He confessed, Flash said. But his voice lacked conviction. He admitted everything. Under duress, Batman countered. Powerless, surrounded by beings who could kill him. How voluntary was that confession, really? He pulled up the legal analysis he'd been running during the transfer. I've modeled this in 17 different legal frameworks. In most of them, what we did would be considered kidnapping and illegal detention. He murdered 15 people in one night, Diana said, Warrior's certainty unshaken. How many more would have died while we debated jurisdiction and proper procedure? That's the question that keeps me up at night, Superman said quietly. How do you balance immediate safety against proper justice? When does prevention become tyranny? He looked at his hands, hands that could reshape continents, stop bullets, hold back tidal waves. This is why I'm terrified of myself sometimes, because it would be so easy to decide I know better, to become the benevolent dictator, to say, I'll protect everyone whether they want it or not. Injustice timeline, Cyborg said, pulling up data on the parallel Earth. That's exactly what happened there. Joker's trick broke you, and you decided order was more important than freedom. You became the tyrant. I know. Clark's voice was heavy with the weight of infinite power and finite wisdom. I've seen that timeline. I've seen what I become when I stop trusting in humanity's ability to govern itself. It's my worst nightmare, not that I'll fail to save someone, but that I'll succeed in saving everyone and damn them all in the process. Batman approached, putting a hand on Superman's shoulder, rare physical contact between the two titans. That's why you're you, Clark, because you understand the danger. Homelander never had that. He was raised to believe he was supreme, and he never questioned it. Doesn't make what we did right, Superman said. We made decision for all of Earth, for all the multiverse, really. We decided Homelander couldn't be saved, couldn't be contained safely, couldn't be given traditional justice. What gives us that authority? Power does, a new voice said from the doorway. They all turned to see Amanda Waller enter uninvited, flanked by Secret Service agents. The Wall, head of Task Force X, government liaison, and the woman who believed in controlling superhumans by any means necessary, approached the conference table with a tablet displaying detailed footage of Homelander's capture and imprisonment. Director Waller, Superman said coldly. This is a secure facility, and I have presidential authorization to be here, Amanda replied, unmoved by Superman's tone. Because what you just did has massive implications for US policy regarding enhanced individuals. She pulled up footage of the Phantom Zone transfer. You imprisoned a superpowered being without trial, without legal representation, without even contacting the State Department. Do you understand the precedent this sets? He wasn't a US citizen, Batman said. He wasn't even from our universe. Irrelevant. He was on US soil when you arrested him. He committed crimes in US territory. That makes it our jurisdiction. Waller's expression was sharp as obsidian. But here's what really concerns me. If the Justice League can decide unilaterally to imprison beings in dimensional gulags, from what stops you from doing it to anyone else you deem too dangerous? We're not going to, Superman started. You already did, Waller interrupted. And you know what? I agree with your decision. Homelander was too dangerous to contain through conventional means. He needed to be removed from play immediately. She leaned forward. But don't pretend this was justice. This was power. Pure, unilateral, extrajudicial power. The exact thing you claim to stand against. The accusation landed like a physical blow. Diana's hand moved to her sword hilt reflexively. You dare suggest we are tyrants? I'm suggesting you have capacity for tyranny, Waller corrected. Just like every powerful being. The difference between you and Homelander is you choose restraint. But choice isn't the same as inability. You can become dictators, like you just haven't yet. Is there a point to this lecture? Batman's voice was ice. The point is oversight. Waller pulled up a new document, official letterhead from the Department of Defense. The President is establishing a meta-human oversight committee. Not to control the Justice League, we're not that delusional, but to provide legal framework for situations like this. Enhanced individuals who commit crimes, dimensional travelers without citizenship, alien refugees seeking asylum. Right now, you're making it up as you go along. And you want government control, Flash said, suspicion evident. I want accountability, Waller corrected. The Justice League answers to no one. You police yourselves. You decide what's just. You determine who deserves mercy and who deserves dimensional prison. She looked at each of them in turn. Sir, I trust you people. More than I trust most elected officials, honestly. But trust isn't a system. It's a gamble. And I don't gamble with national security. Superman stood, cape flowing behind him. So what are you proposing? Liaison, Waller said simply. The Justice League continues operating independently. I'm not stupid enough to think we could control you even if we tried. But for cases like Homelander, dimensional travelers, international incidents, existential threats, you consult with designated government representatives before making unilateral decisions. Bureaucracy would get people killed, Diana said flatly. While we wait for committee approval, threats multiply. Then we move fast, Waller shot back. Emergency protocols for imminent danger, review board for everything else. It's not perfect, but it's better than unchecked power. Batman had been silent, processing the proposal from every angle. You realize this only works if we agree to it. You can't force compliance. I know. Waller's expression was grim, which is why I'm asking instead of demanding. Because you're right, we can't force you, but maybe you'll accept it anyway, because you know she's right about the danger of unchecked power. The she clearly referred to herself, but the point landed. Superman looked at Batman, at Diana, at the assembled League, seeing in their faces the same struggle he felt. They'd done what was necessary, but necessary didn't mean right, and if they were truly the heroes they claimed to be, they had to be willing to accept limitations on their power. I'll agree to consultation on non-emergency cases, Clark said finally. And with veto power, if government decision would endanger innocence, and absolute transparency, no secret prisons, no black sites, no Task Force X recruiting from our captures. Waller's jaw tightened. That last one's non-negotiable. Suicide Squad operates under different rules. Then we have a problem, Batman said coldly. Because I won't hand prisoners over to be exploited as expendable assets. They're criminals, Waller snapped. Killers, terrorists, psychopaths who chose their paths. Using them for dangerous missions isn't exploitation, it's appropriate punishment. It's slavery, Diana said with Olympian authority. Forced labor under threat of death. My people fought wars to end such practices. I will not condone them now. The standoff held for tense moments. Finally, Waller nodded curtly. Fine. Consultation only. No forced recruitment from Justice League captures. But understand, Suicide Squad continues operating. We'll source our members from elsewhere. Acceptable, Superman said, extending his hand. Oversight Committee with emergency override provisions. Written into formal protocol, publicly disclosed, subject to review. Waller shook his hand, grip firm. You're doing the right thing, Superman, even if it doesn't feel like it. As the director departed with her security detail, the Justice League sat in renewed silence. They'd just agreed to limit their own power, to accept governmental oversight, to acknowledge that even heroes needed accountability. She's right, you know, Clark said quietly. About the danger we represent, about the capacity for tyranny. He looked at his hands again. God Homelander showed us what happens when power exists without restraint, but he also showed us what we could become if we're not careful. Then we remain careful, Diana said firmly. We hold each other accountable. We question our decisions. We never become so certain of our righteousness that we stop examining our actions. And we remember today, Batman added. Remember that we crossed a line. Remember that it was necessary, but never comfortable. The moment we become comfortable with unilateral power is the moment we become the threat. The watchtower's sensors chimed. Dimensional anomaly detected. Potential rift forming over Central City. Flash was already vibrating toward the exit. Duty calls. We can philosophize after we save the world. Again. As the League mobilized for their next crisis, Superman stayed behind for a moment, looking at the spot where the Phantom Zone portal had opened. Somewhere in that crystalline void, Homelander existed outside time, trapped with his own thoughts and the weight of his crimes. I hope we did the right thing, Clark said to the empty room. The universe offered no answer. Only the endless work of heroism, imperfect, complicated, necessary. 3 months after Homelander's imprisonment, Metropolis rebuilt. The burn marks in Crime Alley faded under new construction. The families of the 15 victims received compensation from a fund Batman established. Anonymous, untraceable, justice where law couldn't reach. The Justice League implemented new protocols for dimensional travelers, establishing detention procedures and legal frameworks in consultation with Waller's Oversight Committee. But the scars remained. Superman stood on the Daily Planet rooftop at sunset, cape billowing in wind that carried the sounds of a city going about its evening routines. Lois Lane joined him, pressing against his side with the comfortable intimacy of years together. "You're thinking about him again," she said. Not a question. "Always," Clark admitted. "Wondering if we could have saved him, and if there was another way." "There wasn't," Lois said with a journalist's certainty. "I've read the files, Clark. Every report, every testimony, every psychological evaluation. Homelander wasn't tragic hero corrupted by circumstances. He was broken from the beginning. Vaught's compound phi gave him powers, but their methodology stripped away his humanity before it could form. I know." Superman's jaw tightened. "But that's what haunts me. He could have been me, Lois. If Vought had found Kal-El's pod instead of the Kents, if I'd been raised as product instead of person, I could have become exactly what he was. But you weren't." Lois took his hand, squeezing tight, "because Jonathan and Martha Kent saw a baby who needed love, not a god who needed worship. Because they taught you that power is responsibility, not privilege. Because they raised a hero instead of a weapon." Clark pulled her close, super-hearing cataloging her heartbeat, the warmth of her skin, the simple humanity that grounded his godlike existence. "Homelander told me his last words before the Phantom Zone. Asked if he could have been like me if circumstances were different." "What did you say?" "That I didn't know, that maybe he could have been, but that it didn't matter because that's not the universe he lived in." Superman's voice carried the weight of impossible choices. Was that cruel? To tell a broken man that he might have been saved if only things had been different? "It was honest," Lois said firmly, "and honesty is what separates heroes from PR campaigns. Homelander spent his whole life performing heroism. You actually live it. That's the difference." In the Batcave, Bruce Wayne sat before his computer, reviewing the Homelander file for the 100th time. Alfred appeared with tea, setting it beside the keyboard with practiced precision. "Still searching for absolution, Master Bruce?" "Still searching for certainty," Batman corrected. "Homelander represented everything I fear about Superman-class power, but imprisoning him in the Phantom Zone." He pulled up legal analyses, ethical frameworks, philosophical treatises on justice versus mercy. It was the right tactical decision, but was it the right moral one? "Perhaps," Alfred said gently. There is no moral certainty in such situations. Perhaps the best we can do is make the least wrong choice and accept the weight of that decision. Batman's hand moved to the kryptonite container in his belt. Still carried, always carried. In contingency, against the day Superman might fall. I told Clark I trust him, and I do, but Homelander reminded me why I need contingencies, why I can't let friendship blind me to danger. Master Bruce, may I offer observation? Always. Alfred gestured at the screens showing Superman saving people in Metropolis, Wonder Woman mediating in Themyscira, Flash helping with disaster relief in Central City. Those are heroes, sir. Not because they're powerful, but because they choose daily to serve rather than rule. Homelander never made that choice. He never could. It wasn't in him. But your friends, they make it every moment of every day. Perhaps that's the certainty you seek. Batman considered this, then nodded slowly. Perhaps. He closed the Homelander file and opened new case. Joker sighting in Amusement Mile, kidnapping in progress. Back to work. Indeed, sir, the never-ending battle. On Themyscira, Diana trained with her Amazon sisters, sword dancing through combat forms that were ancient when mankind first learned to forge bronze. But her mind was elsewhere, replaying the moment she'd wrapped the lasso of truth around Homelander's throat, compelling him to speak his genuine feelings about the people he claimed to protect. Nothing. They're props, audience, things that exist to make me feel superior. The words haunted her. She'd fought gods and monsters for 3,000 years, but Homelander represented something worse, a being who wore the costume of hero but possessed none of the spirit. In many ways, he was more dangerous than Darkseid or Ares, because those beings were honest in their evil. Homelander performed heroism while rotting from within. Her mother, Queen Hippolyta, approached. "You seem troubled, daughter." "I killed many beings during the Great Wars," Diana said quietly. "Soldiers, monsters, gods who threatened innocent life. But I have never felt as morally compromised as when we imprisoned Homelander." "Why?" Hippolyta asked. "He was threat. You neutralized him." "Because part of me wanted to kill him," Diana admitted. "Wanted to end the threat permanently, decisively, in a way that honored Warrior's code. But Superman stayed my hand, reminded me of laws we claim to uphold." She looked at her mother. "And now I wonder, was mercy correct choice, or did we simply lack courage to do what was necessary?" "Perhaps," Hippolyta said wisely. "Both are true. Perhaps mercy requires more courage than killing. But also, perhaps you will never know with certainty if you chose correctly. That is burden of leadership, Diana. To make impossible choices and live with consequences." In the Phantom Zone, time meant nothing. Homelander floated in crystalline void, alone with his thoughts and the crushing weight of what he'd become. No audience to perform for, no worship to sustain his ego, no powers to enforce his will. The Zone's suppressed abilities, leaving him merely human. At first, he'd raged, screamed at the void, demanded release, threatened revenge. But the Zone offered no response, just eternal silence and the company of his own fractured psyche. Gradually, something began to shift. Not redemption. He lacked the capacity for genuine moral transformation, but awareness, understanding, a recognition that he'd been broken from the beginning, shaped by Vort's cruelty into weapon rather than person. As he remembered the way Superman had looked at him, not with hatred, but with devastating pity. Remembered Wonder Woman's warrior assessment that found him fundamentally wanting. Remembered Batman's cold analysis that stripped away every lie he'd told himself about his heroism. He'd spent his entire life demanding worship, and the Justice League had given him something infinitely worse: honesty. In the crystalline silence, Homelander finally stopped performing, stopped pretending, stopped being Homelander at all. What remained was something smaller, more pathetic, more genuinely human than he'd ever allowed himself to be. Not redeemed, not forgiven, but possibly, for the first time, aware of exactly what he was and what he'd lost by never being anything else. It wasn't redemption, but it was truth. Back on Earth, the Justice League continued their work, saving cities, stopping invasions, mediating conflicts between nations and gods, the never-ending battle against chaos, with all its moral complexity and impossible choices. And in the shadows of Gotham, of Metropolis, of 1,000 cities where darkness and light waged eternal war, people looked up at symbols in the sky and saw not gods, but guardians. Flawed, struggling, questioning their own decisions, but always, always choosing to serve rather than rule. That was the difference Homelander had never understood. Power didn't make you superior. Choice did. And the choice to use infinite power with infinite restraint was what separated heroes from tyrants. The DC universe had learned its lesson from the false god in a cape, had documented his testimony, and had established protocols to prevent more Homelanders from being created, had held itself accountable for the decision to imprison rather than rehabilitate. And somewhere in the Phantom Zone, a broken being who'd never been a hero finally understood what heroism meant and wept for what he could never be. The story of Homelander's arrival in the DC universe became legend. Cautionary tale told in Justice League briefings, training sessions for young heroes, and government oversight committee meetings. Batman's files on the incident were studied by every major hero organization, dissected for lessons about power without accountability and the dangers of corporate manufactured heroism. Superman gave interviews about it, speaking honestly about the moral complexity of imprisoning someone without traditional trial. And Wonder Woman discussed it in diplomatic contexts, explaining how warriors must sometimes make hard choices between mercy and safety. The Flash talked about it in forensic contexts, examining how speed and power don't grant moral authority. But the deepest impact was felt in the choices the League made afterward. They accepted oversight. They questioned their own authority. They remained vigilant not just against external threats, but against the tyranny of their own power. Because Homelander had shown them the truth about godlike abilities, it wasn't the power that mattered, but the humanity wielding it. Without moral foundation, without genuine compassion, without the capacity to see others as equals rather than audience. Power became nothing more than capacity for destruction. The Justice League would face other threats, the other dimensional travelers, other beings who wore heroism like costume while rotting within. But they would face them with clear eyes, understanding that the line between hero and tyrant was thinner than anyone wanted to admit. And they would remember the false god who came from another universe, who showed them their own potential for corruption, and who ultimately served as reminder that hope shines brightest, not when things are easy, but when heroes choose restraint despite having power to enforce their will. In the Phantom Zone, Homelander remained, trapped, isolated, but perhaps finally seeing clearly what he'd always been unable to recognize. That worship and heroism were never the same thing. That power demanded responsibility, that being a god meant nothing if you lacked humanity. The DC universe continued turning. The Justice League continued protecting it, and the lesson of the false god in the cape endured as warning and wisdom both. Some beings could be saved, others could only be contained. And knowing the difference, accepting that mercy sometimes meant imprisonment, that justice sometimes looked like cruelty, that heroes sometimes had to make impossible choices, that was what separated legends from tyrants. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe.